Hi there, good morning. It's Mike Bushell here at the BBC Sports Centre with all the latest on the latest England squad named by Thomas Tuchel ahead of the games, the World Cup qualifiers next Thursday and a week on Sunday against Serbia and Albania. A few changes. Remember, England have already qualified as winners of the group. Let's have a look at the squad then. A few changes to run through for you here. So the goalkeeper's no surprise there. As for the defenders, well, you might feel sorry for Marcus Lewis-Skelly of Arsenal, who misses out to Nico O'Reilly of Manchester City. He comes in there, the big change in regards to the defenders. The main headlines really are made in midfield with the return of Jude Bellingham. Of course, England's talisman hasn't played for England since June, had a surgery on his shoulder, but is now deemed fit enough to come back in. He has got competition for his starting place, though, having seen how well Elliot Anderson and Morgan Rogers have done in his absence, and they're, of course, included in the squad as well. Another returnee is Phil Foden. He's back in, but I must also point out in terms of the midfield there, you've got Alex Scott, Bournemouth going so well near the top of the Premier League. So Bournemouth's Alex Scott did so well for England under 21, so he gets his first call-up there in midfield. And I mentioned Phil Foden, so he gets his return as one of the attacking players. No place, though, for the likes of Jack Grealish, or indeed no place for informed Danny Welbeck. He's going to be 35 soon, so I guess it's thought that he might just be too old. But then age hasn't counted against Jordan Henderson. I know a lot of fans certainly were saying, please don't include Jordan Henderson again. He can't be the future, but he does offer such experience, which is so valuable in the mind of Thomas Tuchel if you consider those younger players like Alex Scott coming in and Elliot Anderson providing the future. The youth, you do need that blend of experience and youth as well as you go to maybe a World Cup tournament. So Jordan Henderson stays in, but there's no place for Ollie Watkins this time around either. So let's have a look at the fixtures coming up then. So it's an interesting one for Thomas Tuchel because he knows his team are already there. They've already qualified as group winners as well. So he's got two more qualifiers to go against Serbia, who they beat 5-0 away, remember, and then away in Albania. So does he stick with pretty much the tried and tested team that has been playing him, developing this club feel in the last few games and doing so well? They really have clicked and fired into life under Tuchel this autumn. So does he stick with that sort of team or try and experiment a bit, knowing that, yeah, the team have already made it and that just with one more camp to come in the spring? Well, let's get some reaction then from Wembley. Earlier I spoke to our senior football reporter, Alex Howe.
Jude Bellingham called back by Thomas Tuchel. He did say last time that special rules for special players, although this recall probably isn't that. The main issue for Jude Bellingham last time was that he hadn't got back into what Tuchel called his full rhythm after he had that shoulder surgery. But there's no debating his importance to this England team. He was named England Player of the Year. He's back playing for Real Madrid, and Thomas Tuchel has called him back into his England setup. And now the debate, now he's back in the squad, will be around where does he fit into this England team. Thomas Tuchel has built a club feeling around these players and has referenced multiple times about how important the spirit is in the group and how important that is going into a tournament. Morgan Rogers has been playing as the number 10 and that front three has looked quite settled. So I'd be interested to see what Thomas Tuchel does.
Yeah, because as you say, he has got competition now, hasn't he, with the likes of Morgan Rogers, so he's not a definite starter, you'd have to say, which is quite surprising when he consider his form in the past for England.
Really is, but that's what Tuchel wants. He actually used the phrase, he wanted to make this England team and England squad a bit spicier to really get the competitive edge from his players, make the squad small, make competition for places high to get the best levels of performances from all of the players that he has available. And alongside Morgan Rogers and Jude Bellingham, there is also Phil Foden back in the squad. So three very, very good and high level number 10s. But that's exactly what Thomas Tuchel wants heading into a World Cup.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll come to Phil Foden's return in a moment. But first of all, what about the strained relationship with Tuchel and between him and Jude Bellingham after, what was it, back in the summer, he spoke about his attitude as it came across as repulsive. I know he then apologised, but is that completely buried now and they can move on from that, do you think?
I suppose the first time the player and manager are together after something like that, it could be slightly awkward. Tuchel said he's spoken to him on the phone during the last camp when he let him out, when Bellingham said he actually wanted to be in the squad. So there might be some awkwardness around that. But form, playing goals, playing for England, those things are always put to the side. We've seen what Jude Bellingham has done for England in the past, particularly at the Euros, those moments dragging England through into the deep parts of tournaments. And for Bellingham, he wants to be England's star player. He wants to win the World Cup. And for Tuchel, he wants the same and the best performances. So although there might be slightly awkward conversations, as soon as football is the topic of conversation and the players are on the pitch, I think that will all be forgotten.
Absolutely. Now, you mentioned Phil Foden. He reminded everybody of his talents with those 2 goals against Borussia Dortmund just a couple of days ago. So no surprise, really, that he's earned his recall, because Tuchel does tend to pick the form players.
He does, although he did have a battle on his hand, particularly when Noni Madueke, Bukayo Saka, Rodgers, who we've spoken about, Marcus Rashford and Anthony Gordon have had those attacking places kind of locked off, really. And Foden, although he was getting back to his best, Tuchel still said he needed to see a bit more. And as you mentioned there, he's delivered that. For Manchester City, Anthony Gordon has picked up a knock. There's no Ollie Watkins either in this squad, so another forward position has become freed up. So he's got a big chance, and what a time to do it in this November camp, the last one of the year, to leave a big reminder to Tuchel, to the England fans when they play at Wembley. And then there's only one more camp next year before Tuchel will name his World Cup squad after the March International. So timing could be key as long as he can keep up his club form.
Yeah, and you mentioned all those talented names. One player must be worried about his place now for next summer is Jack Grealish. Now at Everton, bit of a new lease of life, but it doesn't seem enough at the moment.
Not quite. And Tuchel was spoken about how he really likes Jack Grealish, loves his personality and how high pressure games don't seem to faze him. It seems a while ago now, doesn't it, that he was such a key player for Manchester City in that treble winning season that they had. He's had the move to Everton, looks more like the Jack Grealish that we saw at Manchester City, but it's so competitive in those forward areas. And Tuchel has tended to go for players who are powerful runners, and he loves pace in those wide areas. So you look at Marcus Rashford, Anthony Gordon, Bukayo Saka, Noni Madueke. It's a hard place to break into either of those wing positions. And then number 10, Tuchel absolutely loves Morgan Rodgers. He started so many of these key games for him in these last 4 internationals. So it is a case of he's playing well, but probably not well enough to get in ahead of those players that Tuchel likes, and more importantly, that have produced for him while he's been England manager.
One name that will stand out, and it really proves that the form of your club can make an impact, is Alex Scott of Bournemouth. He gets a call up.
He does, and that is another nod and to the England pathway. Alex Scott was part of that England under-21 side that won the Euros in Slovakia in the summer. I actually went there, and he played in midfield with Elliot Anderson. So there may be a thought from Tuchel that those two know each other, can play well, and have won a trophy, although it is youth football, that they do know how to play together. Bournemouth are playing very well, and it's also another option in that number 6 position. And it continues to show that there is a pathway for those young players to come through from the under-21s for England. So he's done very well. He's been knocking on door, and like Foden, timing could be key.
You mentioned looking to the future with the youth players, but there's one player in that I know some fans will be screaming about. 35 years old, Jordan Henderson stays in.
He does. He is performing, though. He's playing for Brentford in the Premier League, and Tuchel has spoken so many times about how he values the standards that Jordan Henderson brings. Spoken to people around the FA and say, although you see on the pitch he's a vocal leader, when you're with him one-to-one, he's an infectious person. And when you're travelling away for what could be a 6-week tournament, that is so invaluable. He is now playing in the Premier League. There were questions before, weren't there, about when he moved to Ajax or went to Saudi Arabia, about whether the level or intensity was good enough. But then you also have, he's used to winning, he's experienced winner. It's a very young squad. Speaking about Alex Scott, not much experience on the international stage, particularly at senior level. His first call up. Elliot Anderson's only been in for two squads. Adam Wharton has only got one cap. So you think you've got those young players around him. Declan Rice is slightly different as well. But then you have Henderson, who could play as a number 8 or as a number 6. So although some people may not agree with Jordan Henderson being called up, and an elder statesman of the group, Thomas Tuchel, although you might not agree with them, he has his reasons.
Yeah, the blend of youth and that experience, as you mentioned there. But age may be the barrier for Danny Welbeck. In form for Brighton, absolutely on fire at the moment. Hasn't played for England for, 7 years? He doesn't get the call-up, and maybe it is too late for him to get, be part of the party.
Yeah, we're running out of camps, and although he's playing well, Tuchel has been looking, as we've seen. There is Alex Scott in for a first call up, so he does watch these players, and I believe he was close. But with Harry Kane, he's going to play the majority of the games. Marcus Rashford can play as a number 9. Morgan Rogers can. Jude Bellingham, we've seen play there for Real Madrid. So there are options for England. So as you say, Mike, it probably is just a case of too late for Danny Welbeck to break in. It's not, the door isn't shut, of course. Like, form and injuries are key for these England players, but at the moment there's not a place for Danny Welbeck.
Yeah, and just finally the overview. Given that England have already qualified, not many camps left, not many matches left. Does Thomas Tuchel try and get a settled team playing, going for the momentum, keep winning, keep that clean sheet run going, or experiment? That's the big question now, isn't it?
I think he sticks with what's performed so well for him. Is 2 5-0 wins away from home in these last 2 camps. He's made a massive thing about trying to create this club feel. Tuchel said he had thought about making changes to this squad. Now England were qualified to experiment, but the England team posted a video, and it was of Harry Kane's team talk to the squad as captain after that last 5-0 win, and he said we continue this into November. And Tuchel said he took note of that. The players want to continue. They've been together. They're building momentum. They feel good. He said the spirit is very, very high. So I suspect you will see Thomas Tuchel sticking with the core of that group, and it won't be too different from the side that you've seen for the last 4 matches.
Yeah, that's Alex Howell, our senior football reporter, with his reaction from pitchside at Wembley a little earlier on after the squad announcement by Thomas Tuchel for the final 2 competitive matches before the World Cup next summer in Canada, Mexico and the USA. There will be a couple of friendlies and one more camp in the spring. But let's remind ourselves of the squad then. As I say, no real surprises in terms of the goalkeepers. In terms of defenders, well, yeah, Miles Lewis-Skelly might feel a bit sorry for himself missing out as Nico Riley of Manchester City comes in. Midfield is where we've seen the main headlines made, with young Alex Scott getting his chance. Bournemouth going so well, scored for them this season, played in all 10 Premier League games indeed for Bournemouth so far in their rise up the league, and starred for the England under-21s just last year. Jack Grealish misses out. Jordan Henderson keeps his place there. His experience at 35 years old, so valuable in Thomas Tuchel's eyes, really. Jude Bellingham, as we've heard so much about, is back, but he will face that competition for his place, as Thomas Tuchel likes to keep momentum with the same team, so he's got to try and challenge the likes of Morgan Rogers and Elliot Anderson, who have been doing so well in his absence. And then up front, Phil Foden. Returning back in form, scoring those goals the other night for Manchester City from outside the box, reminding us all of his talents there. You've got Marcus Rashford keeping his place. No place for Danny Welbeck. He is 35, though, nearly 35 at least in the next couple of weeks. And you might have seen that there's no place for Noni Madueke, but he's coming back from injury. He should be fit now for Arsenal, but comes a little bit too early for him. After doing so well for England, really, but it comes too early after his recent injury, even though he's back in the Arsenal camp. So he will be one to challenge, certainly, for anybody that doesn't perform in the next couple of games, which are against Serbia next Thursday on the 13th, and then Albania away, the final World Cup group match. We can remind yourselves of the fixtures there, indeed. Serbia at home, England beat them 5-0, 2 5-0s indeed, recently, away in Latvia as well, and then they did so well away in Serbia. And Albania The final game a week on Sunday. England will be favourites to beat the team second in the table, indeed, Albania, which we can have a look at the table now. So England clear. They can't be caught. The battle is on in second place to try and see who gets the playoff place. We will go live to Thomas Tuchel and hear what he's got to say in the next few moments at Wembley. But I tell you what, he can be pretty confident that he can call the shots here because of his record. So he was first announced in the autumn of 2024, but he didn't actually take over, remember, until January 2025. His record is 7 wins, 1 defeat, 87.5 win percentage. Has to be said, it took a while to click, didn't it? Do you remember those early matches in the early World Cup qualifiers where England really laboured? They didn't play the attacking football that he was promising. They laboured to wins, they got the wins, but it was rather boring and people doubted him then, didn't they? And then he had that defeat in a friendly, admittedly, against Senegal at home. 3-1 defeat at home in the summer back in June. You can probably understand that, though. It was a friendly, end of the season, players really maybe thinking about the preparations for the summer, and the next season, the big season, the tiring season, come to an end. You can perhaps excuse it for that because since then, England have returned. They've been on fire this autumn, absolutely. No goals conceded, all those 5-0 wins, 2-0 wins. It's been absolutely brilliant. And we can hear now, actually, from the man himself, Thomas Tuchel, taking his seat to talk to the media. So these are live pictures, indeed, at Wembley. Let's hear what he's got to say then ahead of this next round of qualifying fixtures against Serbia and Albania. It's over to Thomas. I think he's ready. We'll hear what he's got to say.
First instance, if we do have time, we'll come back to you for a follow-up. Robbie, should we get some?
Okay. Thomas, good to see you.
Yeah, same.
We always find your squad selections fascinating, but this one feels
really?
more than ever. Jude Bellingham.
More than ever?
Well, I'll get on to that. But the thing is, Jude Bellingham and Phil Foden back in, two of the biggest names, two of the big special players, as you call them.
Yeah.
The discussion starts now, I guess, on how you get them all into the side and what their best positions are. So what's your thinking?
Well, first of all, we are delighted that they are back. I think the contribution of both of them to their clubs lately was immense. They play regularly, of course. They play a big part and a big role in the success of Real and City's matches lately. They score regularly, decisive goals. So we're delighted that they're in shape, in form, and back with us. Jude comes back as a number 10 position. I think that's his best position, and I think one of his key strengths is to score from this position, and he has the ability to arrive and to score goals that a number 9 would score. So he scores tap-ins, he scores one-touch tap-ins inside the 6-yard box, which is very unusual, which seems then seems sometimes easy goals, but to arrive in these positions in the right timing, in the right moment, is a key strength and is one of his key qualities and outstanding qualities. So we will try to find a space there for him as a 10 to arrive in these 9 positions and score for us. I think Phil, where he played now lately for Dortmund, was where I see him the strongest. I think he's close to the opponent's box, maybe a mix between a 9 and a 10, close to the opponent's box. For me, Phil scores and assists more from the 18-yard box. Where he scored against Dortmund. He's on the half turn, then he assists, he's in the pockets. So I think the main thing with Phil is that he gets a role in the central part of the pitch. I don't see him as a winger at the moment, and maybe not anymore. He should have a central role. I think that brings out his strengths the most. We talked about this already with him. So he will contribute as a 9.5, 10.5-ish position, very fluid, but in the middle of the pitch to be close to the box, be able to assist and to score like he did against Dortmund.
Interesting, thank you. Lots of defensive midfield options in this squad now. Elliot Anderson has done so well for you there in the last 4 games. Yeah. And you've surprised us a little bit by calling up both Adam Wharton and Alex Scott for the first time. Can you explain that one to us?
Yeah, of course I can. 2 different positions, 2 different profiles. Adam We tried for the third time to call him up. I hope he stays fit and is able to come. I think one was a concussion protocol and eye problems, and next one was groin problems that held him back. You're right. Elliot did very, very well for us in central defensive midfield, but he suffers a little bit from he plays through pain and discomfort at the moment. Nothing major, so I think he will be involved in the weekend's match for Forest, but we are aware of that. So we added Adam to the team, first of all because he deserves, second of all because we need to learn about him in our environment, what he can bring to our squad, and prepare ourselves if Elliot is maybe not able to play both 90 minutes. Don't forget Jordan Henderson, please, because we have both options. Both of them did very well in their clubs and did very well for us. But yeah, Adam is an add-on on the number 6 position now in camp. And Alex deserves to be with us. I mean, I first closely saw him in the Euros with the under-21s, where he did excellent together with Elliot Anderson in central midfield and played a huge part in the title win for the under-21s. Since then, he stepped really up and is a regular starter for Bournemouth, who are overperforming constantly in the league. And I think he came now a long way, and he performed his way into this nomination. And he will come as a number 8, gets a number 8 role, and hopefully he can prove us right and show us his talent and personality.
Hi, Thomas. It's largely the same squad as you try to continue to build that club feel you've mentioned. Do you say to the players directly, this is who you're up against, players both in and out of the squad, this is the player you've got to do better than?
Well, it's not up against, because I truly believe that we in international football, we should work as a team, and we should even, like, if we compete for a position, we should still support us, and the players should bring out the best in this situation of concurrence. But in terms of clarity, the players know in which position we basically plan with them. It will never hold us back to change in matches. It will never hold us back to react to training performances or to slight injuries. For example, if you remember the last match against Wales, we then put Ezri Konsa on a right fullback position and played with Mark and John in the central defence. And Ezri came into camp as a central defender. So this is always possible, because some of the players have, of course, the profile to be available on more than just one position. But in terms of clarity, the players know where they are competing and where they need to perform and whom they need to outperform to be in the squad. Yeah.
And Miles Lewis-Skelly has dropped out of this squad, you said last time. It wasn't enough just to be a good teammate. It was just a case of lack of game time at his club.
Yeah, Miles was a very good teammate and played for us in last camp in the qualifier in Riga. So was Ruben Loftus-Cheek, so was Morgan Gibbs-White, so was James Trafford. But I said last time, there's also a component to it that it is about competition, it's about performance, and the door is always open for guys who perform on a regular level and on a high level. So yeah, Miles and Ruben, Morgan Gibbs-White got outperformed from Nico, from Alex Scott, from Nick Pope, and from Jude, and in their positions, and door is always open. Miles simply needs more starts, more minutes. We selected him the last camps despite his position at Arsenal, but now came a time where Nico Riley had so many starts in his position, so he's slightly ahead for this camp.
Hello, Thomas.
Hi.
What conversation did you have with Jude Bellingham coming back into this squad? You made it very clear you've given him the 10 role. Is it nice to then be able to give them that precise direction in terms of coming back into the squad? And is it good to have given him those international breaks off to keep him fresh coming back in?
Yeah, I guess so. That was the decision for last camp, and he accepted the decision. And he did what he does best. He competed on the highest level, and he showed that he deserves and has to be in the squad. So that's why he is in the squad. I will not reveal my confidential and private conversation with players here in public, but I think it's not a surprise for him to compete for us on the number 10 position. I think he knows from me, and I think he sees himself as a number 10. Like I said, I feel that his key strengths from the number 10 is to find number 9 positions, and that he has this hunger and determination to score. This is what we see now for Real Madrid, and hopefully we see it next week for us.
There was a lot of noise around him in the last 2 camps. How have you assessed how he's reacted to that? He's achieved a lot in his career, but he's just 22 years old, a lot of his private life going on in the background as well. It's been probably a difficult past month for him in terms of his career and his life. How's he handled it? Has the reaction been good from what you saw?
Yeah, amazing reaction, like in performance-wise, amazing reaction. And you're right, there's a lot of things going on. We're always here to help. We're always here to support. We're always here to be stable for him. There is no doubt about that. He is still young. If you look at his career, it feels sometimes he's 26, 28, but he's still a very young player. And he has our full support, and we want to provide a stable environment for him that he can show the level of performance that help us to be a better team.
Hi, Thomas. Ollie Watkins has been omitted from this squad. He's been a big feature of your previous squads. Could you explain why Ollie won't be with the squad this time? And also, I know that some England fans are concerned that he hasn't been replaced with another natural number 9, if you like, and a little nervous about what might happen if Harry Kane was to be injured.
No one needs to be nervous. We have a lot of good strikers. Ollie is one of them. We just understand. We understood, and we could observe it when we watched Ollie closely, that he is playing through discomfort at the moment. And it simply didn't make too much sense to bring him into camp in this condition. We then opted for the option to give him this break to get treatment and to be back in full physical capacity and in best shape, and then fight for the place again in March. We don't have this clear number 9 profile now behind Harry. Harry is the number 1 at the moment and a very complete number 9, of course, for us. But I think given different game scenarios, like I said, Anthony Gordon played there for Newcastle. Marcus Rashford plays there for Barcelona. In a match where we find, in a game scenario where we find maybe a bit more space behind the last line, this could be very valid options with a speed. And I think Phil can play a very fluid number 9 for us in this camp. So I think we have enough options to be dangerous. Jude comes back, who shows up regularly in 9 positions. So I think we will be able to create chances and convert them.
And how do you see your team selection and your use of the squad for these 2 matches? Obviously, we have qualified for the World Cup, but the strong, explicit theme of the last camp was more of the same, and the same starting 11 broadly being trusted to keep developing those relationships. But with the new names and the big names coming back in the squad, and others as well, how do you see these 2 games for you in terms of selection?
It's the same. It's the same headline. More of the same, please. Building and building on what we already built, and come with the same energy. We would have selected the same team if we needed both games to win. If it was a playoff to qualify for the World Cup, I would have selected the same team. This was basically the headline for us in the nomination process. Gave it a lot of thought. If the fact that we are already qualified should change this process of selection, we agreed within the staff and in these discussions that it should not. We see these 3 camps as a chance to grow close together. The September, October, November. We said this before, and why would we change that just because we are already qualified? It should give us a boost. It should give us trust in what we're doing. And we will, with this nomination, I think we are very clear, straightforward on that path of competition, that you can compete your way into this team. There's never a door is never closed. And of course, the guys who join the party now, they have to make sure that they are like valuable for the team, that they are in the best shape and the best teammates that they can be to keep this thing going, because the direction is right, the energy is right, and we want to build on that.
Hi, Thomas. You've achieved so much as a coach because of your high standards and because, rightly, your high standards and demanding of people around you. Has Jude got a similar character to that?
Has Jude?
Yeah, got a similar character. He demands a lot, as you do, of wherever you are.
Yes, yes. And he's not the only one. There are a lot of players in the squad who drive the standards. I'm very happy with that, because this is how it has to be. My standards and my beliefs and the way I wanna build the team should be driven by the main players, and that should be reflected by them and met by them, the standards. And this is what they do, and they are driving these standards on a daily basis. The 5, 6, 7 players that built the core, and I'm very happy with that. And Jude has, of course, these characteristics as well.
One of your elite players is Harry Kane. He's having a long season. Yeah. Obviously, Harry's very patriotic, wants to play every game. He loves scoring. He loves pulling on the shirt. But were you ever tempted even to broach the possibility of him having a few days off to ensure that he is fresh for when it really counts next summer?
Yeah, but not in November, given the fact that I know that he has a break in winter. He's in the nice position to play in Germany, and I think that suits him very well to have this little break, given where he is in his career. And that's why he has no excuses for the next 2 matches.
Hi, Thomas. The last 2 camps have been so positive, sort of on and off the field, but how do you sort of guard against that level dropping for these games? Because it comes in a very intense period at club level, and there isn't anything riding on them in terms of qualification.
I think my feeling is that it takes, for a certain part, care of itself, because the players are driving the standards. The players are desperate to be in camp. The players are delighted to be in camp. And I feel that the core players who were here in the last 2 camps and made it, like you said, and I agree, 2 excellent camps, they built something that they will protect, and they will protect with their own characteristics and with their own leadership capabilities. So I think hopefully it will to a part take care of itself. Then it's a matter of nomination. I think you can not communicate. I think this nomination shows that we are serious, and we select the strongest team for this moment. This is our belief. Then we have some newcomers, and we back in the group who were not with us in the last 2 camps, and we hope they bring fresh energy, clean energy, and push the group even further. So I think the mixture is right to have another excellent camp. This is clearly the target. For me, it was before important that we have a period of 3 camps that we take full advantage of and build something that is then a basis to go into the new year and reach the heights that we want to reach. And now it's time for proof of concept. Yeah, it's on us how we live this on a daily basis. But we will push everyone, and I'm very sure, and that the players will follow and do the same.
Obviously, the last games of the year, you're also over halfway through your contract now, and I just wondered if you thought at all about whether there's a part of you that would like to carry on beyond the World Cup.
Yeah, there is. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun, especially since we're on track in the last 2 camps. But it was from the start. But these are, nothing to announce at the moment. But I'm very happy with the way things go, and I think Federation is is quite happy with the way things are. But it's that is just today. I have to prove myself again from Monday. I have to prove myself here, and then from Monday with the team. So, and the rest will take care of itself. The most important is that we stay focused now for next camp. I'm in a good place mentally because I love the team. I love the support from the federation, and I love the direction where it's heading, and that's the main focus. Haven't thought so much about my contract, but we have time for that.
Good morning, Thomas. I just got 2 quick questions. My first one is, you've shown faith in a young English talent, Alex Scott. What message does that send to other young players wanting to be in that position or fighting to be in that position?
Well, hopefully that the door is always open and that it matters how if you go and contribute for the under-21s, for the under-20s and for the under-19s, it just matters. Because Scott had, like Elliot Anderson, a fantastic spell with the under-21s, and it was good to see, it was good to observe. And once I was there in the final, I understand. Once you're there live, you understand the chemistry of the players. You just feel it. I was there in the dressing room. I was watching the match live, and it just matters. So for every young player who plays for England, this is basically the key message. And if you perform on international level, if you perform on club level, the door is always open to reach the next step and play for us.
Yeah, and my last question is the England versus Wales game.
England versus?
The England versus Wales game that went past. Konsa and Saka done really well on that right-hand side. Is that something you'll look into a bit more?
Well, Bukayo on the right side is not a surprise that he can do well, and he did very, very well lately for club and country. So I'm very happy that he's in top shape. We let Ezri play on the right fullback position because I think Jarell Quansah dropped out shortly before the match. He was also an option, and he did excellent. He played there some matches, not the majority of the matches, but he played matches there for Aston Villa. I think he has the profile to do both, Ezri. He can be a very solid option for a right fullback. I was very happy how he played. I think he just made himself available for another option, for another place in the team, which is very nice for me and also for him. He was very strong, and then he had a very strong match as a central defender. I think it's a very serious option to let him play there.
Last question. Thomas, I hinted at the start that it felt as though this was an important squad announcement.
Yeah.
I'll tell you why. The sense that I get, and some of the other guys in this room, and I think a lot of the players, is that if you're not injured and you're playing for your club and you're playing well now, but you're not in this squad, there aren't many more chances for them to prove they're worthy of a place in the World Cup. After this 2 friendlies in March and then you name your squad. I know you'll say to me, nobody's ruled in, nobody's ruled out, a lot of football to play, injuries can come in.
Yeah.
But you've had a settled squad now for the last couple of camps, pretty settled, with 1 or 2 changes in personnel. Are you starting to feel you know what your World Cup squad might be and that you've got a pretty settled mind on that, still with an open mind to potentially 1 or 2 changes?
Yes and no. I have a settled mind, and still I will always be open because I know that anything can happen. Like, we don't wish for injuries and stuff, but they can happen. They can happen on a short notice. So my thoughts now were more for the camp September, October, November than for anything else. My thoughts about the World Cup will then start after this camp. Then the qualification phase is over. These 3 camps are over. This was for me an important cycle, and it's not finished because it starts now the 3rd part of this cycle. And this is where all the attention goes now. Then we think about the World Cup. Then comes a March camp. I think it's very important for me to reconnect after these 3 camps and in between up to March, to reconnect with all 55, 60 players on the long list, to reconnect and be in close contact and see them, meet them, text them. This will be my job to do. And then we need to be, we have the phase in March, which will maybe even be a more busier time for some of our players regarding knockout stages, Champions League, I don't know, semi-finals, finals, FA Cup, Carabao Cup, and seeing the light in the end of the tunnel in Premier League, fighting for titles, fighting for Champions League positions. I think this will be a very complex scenario for the nomination. And still, we have to stay open-minded, because there can always be surprises. Young players can come through. Players who are now maybe struggling for minutes can suddenly play an important role in their clubs. And I want to make sure that the door is always open and everyone is on their toes and aware that they need to compete, and they have also a chance to be with us. Final nomination is only in May, and until then, anything can happen.
Thomas. Hello. Yep. Anthony Gordon, a bit of a doubt for the weekend for Newcastle, but in your squad, does that just say how important he is to this squad and how hopeful you are he'll be able to play a part?
In the shape he was in the last two camps, he's very important, because he gives intensity, a hunger, and a physical input that is very rare to find, and that helps us a lot to build a team identity that we are on the way building. So. To be a very intense team and to be a hard-working team, he is just putting the effort in and is relentless. We are aware of that he was now subbed twice for minor discomfort and minor issues. We are in close contact with medical staff in Newcastle, which was on very trustful and on a very professional and very helpful level. So thanks for that. And we will take care. We decided to call him up. I think there is still a chance that he is involved in the match on the weekend. And my last information is that we have a chance that he will come to camp, and then we will take care, and we will take care of him. Of course, we will not take any unnecessary risk. Players' health is always first.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you. See you next week.
Yep. Yeah, off he goes before he sees the players on Monday ahead of those matches, those final World Cup qualifiers against Serbia at home at Wembley next Thursday, the 13th, and then the following Sunday away in Albania. But he looks happy, doesn't he? He looks composed. He's loving it. It's a lot of fun, he said, when he was asked about his future beyond the World Cup. Wouldn't rule out, of course, staying on, but he knows so much depends on what happens, not only in this camp, but also when it really matters come the World Cup. The USA, Canada and Mexico next summer. But he's right to be happy, because they have been on such a roll this autumn. He's really got that club mentality together, and they've been scoring for fun while keeping clean sheets. Let's remind ourselves of the changes then to the squad. He emphasised how important it was to be in form for your club. And if you're not in form, if you're not on top of your game, you can get outperformed, which is why he mentioned the likes of James Trafford misses out for Nick Pope in terms of the goalkeeping department. In defence, he was saying that's why Miles Lewis-Skelly had missed out this time, because he perhaps wasn't getting the minutes he was getting for Arsenal, again being outperformed by Nico O'Reilly this time in Manchester City, but certainly not ruling that out and closing the door on anybody at all. And then in midfield, he spoke about the return of two special players, Phil Foden there, of course, including the attackers, but two special players returning to the camp in Jude Bellingham and Phil Foden. He spoke, and I found this interesting actually, that he spoke about Phil Foden being his 18-yard box specialist, scoring those goals like he did the other night for Manchester City against Borussia Dortmund, and playing very much in a central role. There has been concern about Phil Foden in the past being put on the wing for England. It hasn't worked, so he definitely sees Phil Foden as a central role. 9.5 or 10.5 if you want to come up with new positions in terms of football tactics. But as for Jude Bellingham, back in the camp, he's delighted with the way he's come back to form for Real Madrid. He says he's so important as that number 10 because he can also push forward to be like a number 9 striker. He scores a lot of goals. His goal contribution was perhaps the key thing that has got him back in. He explained to him why he was left out of the last camp as he came back from shoulder surgery. Perhaps wasn't ready in Thomas Tuchel's mind, but has earned his place. Let's have a listen to what he said then, particularly about Jude Bellingham coming back into the squad.
He did what he does best. He competed on the highest level, and he showed that he deserves and has to be in the squad. So that's why he is in the squad. I will not reveal my confidential and private conversation with players here in public, but I think it's not a surprise for him to compete for us on the number 10 position. I think he knows from me, and I think he sees himself as a number 10. Like I said, I feel that his key strength from the number 10 is to find number 9 positions, and that he has this hunger and determination to score. This is what we see now for Real Madrid, and hopefully we see it next week for us.
Yeah, another of the omissions that caught people's eye was no Ollie Watkins. Thomas Tuchel said that he obviously monitors the players so closely at their clubs, and he didn't feel that Watkins was maybe 100% fit. He thought he was playing through some pain and discomfort at the moment, which is why this time Ollie Watkins does miss out. When it comes to this particular squad for these two matches, England having already qualified, they've booked their place already. He was asked whether he'd drop Harry Kane, give him a bit of a rest, given it's such a long season for Kane at Bayern Munich. Well, not a chance he's getting a rest, it seems, in this particular camp in these World Cup qualifiers, because, as Thomas Tuchel said, that Harry Kane will get a break in terms of the German League's winter break, so that'll give him sufficient time off to have a little rest and put his feet up over the winter, he thought. So it doesn't look like Harry Kane will be missing out on starting, which is so important for Harry Kane himself, isn't it? He loves to play. Let's bring in now for some more reaction Addy Maxwell from the England podcaster. Hi Addy, great to see you. You were there. What was your reaction then? He looked so happy, didn't he? So relaxed, understandably so.
Yeah, he does seem very confident. You can understand why. It's been a really good couple of international breaks. And I think that has, calmed things down a bit after the summer camp, caused quite a lot of consternation for sure. And I think things have played out pretty perfectly for Tuchel over the last few camps. The fact that we've qualified for the World Cup now allows him to basically bring others into the squad to give them a chance, whereas last time round he was very explicit about giving the same players from the September international break the chance to basically go again, which they did. So for me, heading in today, this morning, the big question was, would he essentially name the same squad again and continue to leave out the likes of Bellingham and Foden and others? Instead, they are back in, and he has a pretty easy excuse to switch approach on that front, because again, these games don't have quite as much riding on them. I do think the team selection, however, will be very interesting.
Yes, absolutely. One person who does keep his place, some fans, of course, beforehand saying, please don't pick Jordan Henderson again, he's 35. But Thomas Tuchel came out with one line on him. He's been doing well for club and for England recently. That's it.
Yeah, for sure. That's it. And I think Henderson deserves so much credit for his performances for Brentford this season. And, we on the England pod had discussed the fact that Tuchel seemed happy to have him basically in a leadership role, almost as a quasi-coach as much as an actual player, just because of the impact that he can have on the dressing room and his authority and his leadership skills. And we weren't necessarily expecting him to feature that much on the pitch. Instead, he's now playing regularly and playing very well back in the Premier League, and has answered any questions about his level of performance as well. So for sure, it's been an incredible couple of months for Henderson. And I definitely was the sort of England fan that was keen to see Adam Wharton over Jordan Henderson. Alex Scott, someone that excites me a lot. Elliot Anderson as well. I love the freshness, the young players that we have in those midfield areas. But I think at this point, it's hard to argue against his selection for what he offers, both as a leader and now on the pitch as well. He's playing well.
Do you feel sorry for Danny Welbeck? He is nearly 35 himself, but been doing so well. For Brighton, only second, I think, behind the likes of Erling Haaland in terms of goals and striking prowess this season.
Yeah, he's the top scoring Englishman, isn't he, in the Premier League, Danny Welbeck. And with Ollie Watkins having been excluded from the squad, Thomas Tuchel saying that they felt he's been playing through the pain barrier and would benefit from a rest. There are 22 outfield players in the squad, and we only had Watkins and Kane as recognised number 9s previously. For Watkins to be omitted and Welbeck or someone else not being called up in his place is peculiar, if you ask me. I would have liked to have seen Welbeck, because he's performing very well at the highest possible level. And as Tuchel's been pretty explicit about trying to win the World Cup next summer, we don't have to constantly think about playing young players. I don't think there would be a problem bringing in someone of that age. But for whatever reason, and sadly we didn't get round to asking him at the press conference,
Welbeck wasn't brought in to replace Watkins. So I know from talking to other England fans that even with only 2 number 9s in the squad, there's concern about what happens if Kane gets injured and then you've only got 1. And now we don't have any other recognised number 9s. Tuchel was pretty relaxed about it and said, look, across Gordon and Rashford and even Foden, he seems to be talking up as a kind of false 9.5, as he says. He seems pretty relaxed about the situation.
His big problem is that it's a nice problem to have. He's got such an embarrassment of riches, especially going forward. Isn't it how he makes them all work together? He said they're not up against each other. They work as a team. But anybody old enough can remember the days in the 2000s when we would try to cram the likes of Frank Lampard and Steven Gerrard into the same team. It never seemed to work. That'll bring worries when it comes to try and cram all the talent in. It's about getting the combination, isn't it?
Yeah, that's exactly right. And the last 4 games, the relationships on the pitch have been built with, for example, Morgan Rogers in the number 10 role, who's been excellent, not just with contributions in attack and with his skill and his direct running, but also absolutely doing what Tuchel wants in terms of pressing and intensity out of possession. So clearly for me, like Bellingham coming back in and being earmarked for the number 10 role, that's it's a big decision from a man management point of view from Tuchel as to whether he just gazumps Morgan Rogers straight away or whether Rogers starts the next game, as if to say, Bellingham, you're not just automatically straight in. Then there's Foden, who, again, Tuchel said he doesn't see him playing out wide, so he doesn't see him as a competitor for Saka, for example, on the right-hand side. He sees him doing best in central areas as well. So then you're talking about the number 10 position ultimately, or as Harry Kane's sort of direct replacement at the very top of the pitch. So as always with England squads, we often focus on who's basically on the fringe, who's just been included or excluded. But then when it comes to putting players on the pitch, you can only have 11 of them, and not very many in attacking areas. So that there's always big questions for Tuchel to answer. And yeah, I really enjoy the way that he's approached, particularly the last few camps. And so, with the sort of confidence that we have, having already qualified for the World Cup, I'm just intrigued and excited to see how he approaches the next 2 games.
Absolutely. He says the door's open in terms of the squad, but barring injuries, can you see this squad being pretty close to the one that goes on the plane to the USA, Canada and Mexico?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I'm just kind of going through the pitch in my head. I think the left side of defence is probably still a little bit up in the air. Jed Spencer's done well and will probably start, I would imagine. Nick O'Reilly's come in and Lewis Skelly has gone out. Lewis Hall's back from injury. So we have, I don't think that part of the pitch is necessarily nailed down. I think the centre of defence looks very, very settled with the kind of senior 4, if you like, of Konza, Gahey and Byrne and one other who I'm forgetting. And yeah, in midfield, obviously we've added a few more options, but I still think Anderson, Rice, Henderson are pretty much nailed on. And at the top of the pitch, yeah, we'll wait and see the impact that Foden and Bellingham have. And a lot depends on whether the squad size next summer is 26 or 23. Might make it a little easier for Tuchel to include some of the big names and avoid any major consternation around squad announcement time.
Yeah, plenty of pondering to do. Thanks very much indeed. Great insight from Ali Maxwell there at Wembley, England pod presenter, the podcaster. So that just wraps up our coverage for now, but do visit the BBC Sport website for more. Have your own say. You can come up with your own combinations as well. But from myself, Mike Bushell and the team at the BBC Sport website and the Sports Centre, for now, it's goodbye.